When you think about the intensive care unit, you probably picture a scene of high-stakes, life-or-death drama. But just surviving, well, that's only the first step. So what happens next? Today we're going to pull back the curtain on the often overlooked journey of recovery and the incredible team that helps patients not just survive, but actually live again.
And believe it or not, this isn't a new idea. This quote from all the way back in 1984 really challenges us to look past just the survival stats. It gets you thinking about a much deeper question. What's the quality of the life that we're saving? And that very question is right at the heart of modern critical care, because making it out of the ICU is often just the beginning of a brand new fight.
Well, that battle actually has a name: post-intensive care syndrome, or PICS for short. Think of it as this whole collection of issues: crushing weakness, mental fog, mood problems, and just this overwhelming fatigue. It's the long shadow that a critical illness can cast, and it really affects a person's ability to get back to a normal life. So how do we fight it?
Well, you fight it with a specialized team that starts the rehabilitation process from day one. These are the allied health professionals. You might hear them called AHPs. And their whole focus is on restoring a patient's function, their dignity, and their quality of life. And they start right when the patient is still in the ICU.
Okay, so this team is really built around 4 key players, each with their own unique, vital role. You've got physiotherapists, dietitians, speech and language therapists, and occupational therapists. And together, they're like this powerhouse focused on one thing: a patient's total recovery.
Right. So what do each of these specialists actually do? Let's break down their 4 key roles and really see how they tackle the super complex challenges of getting someone better after a critical illness. All right, first up, the physiotherapist. And this is interesting. In the UK, pretty much every single ICU has input from a PT. That makes them a super consistent, fundamental part of the intensive care team. Their work really revolves around 2 of the most basic human functions there are: breathing and moving. And you'll see how these 2 roles are totally connected. So on one side, you have respiratory care. PTs are helping clear out the lungs to get patients breathing again without a ventilator. And on the other side, they're starting what's called early mobility, often within just 48 hours of admission, to fight off that severe muscle loss we call ICU-acquired weakness.
And that's really their mission, right? To answer that very question. The physiotherapist is there to guide patients through the absolutely monumental task of rebuilding their strength, just for things we all take for granted. But here's the thing: all that hard work needs fuel. And that brings us to a really big problem.
Yeah, get this. A staggering 78% of patients are already malnourished when they get to the ICU. I mean, before their stay even starts. This puts them at a massive disadvantage. It leads to higher mortality rates and longer stays. It is a full-blown nutritional crisis that needs an expert.
And that is exactly where the dietitian steps in. You can think of them as the ICU's metabolism experts. They have the incredibly complex job of fueling a body that is under extreme stress and, a lot of the time, can't even eat normally.
And believe me, their job is way more than just making a meal plan. They create these highly customized nutrition plans, calculating the exact energy and protein a patient needs. They have to deal with the minefield of issues, like when the gut isn't working right. And they also educate the whole medical team on nutrition. I mean, just think about it for a second. Without the right fuel, how is a patient supposed to have the energy for the PT to even start their work? So yeah, they're solving this incredibly fundamental puzzle, figuring out how to give the body the building blocks it needs to heal when it's at its absolute weakest, making sure the recovery process doesn't grind to a halt before it even gets going. Okay, next up, we have the speech and language therapist, or SLT. And the name might make you think their job is pretty narrow, but in the ICU, oh man, they are responsible for some of the most basic human things: our ability to communicate and our ability to swallow. So, after a patient has had a breathing tube, they can't speak, and swallowing can be a huge problem. The SLT works to give them their voice back, which is massive for giving them a sense of control. And they also check out a patient's swallow to make sure it's safe for them to eat and drink without anything going down the wrong way into the lungs, which is a really dangerous thing called aspiration. And their assessment is what gives the dietitian the green light to start a patient on normal food. And that's really the core of what they do. They help people get back these essential parts of who they are. They can turn a terrifying, isolating experience into one where a patient can finally reconnect with the world and just enjoy the simple pleasure of a meal again. Okay, that brings us to our final specialist. And this number, well, it tells a story.
Only 21% of recovery clinics in the UK have an occupational therapist. It really shows you that OT is still kind of an emerging field in critical care, but it's becoming so important.
So, the occupational therapist, the OT, their focus is on a person's occupations. And that doesn't just mean their job. It means all the meaningful, everyday things that make up a life. And they are uniquely trained to tackle both the physical and the mental roadblocks to getting that independence back.
And the scope of their work is it's incredible. They help patients do simple things again, like just brushing their own hair, which can be a massive step in feeling human. They're also experts at managing delirium, that state of confusion that's really common in the ICU, by creating routines to help a patient feel grounded. And their work goes beyond the hospital walls too, helping survivors manage fatigue and even get back to work.
And this really gets to the heart of what makes them so unique. While other specialists are focused on keeping the body alive and working, the OT is all about helping the person inside that body reclaim their life, their identity, and all the little routines that make them who they are.
Okay, so we've met all the individual players on the team. But the real magic, the real power, is in how they collaborate. Let's walk through a case study of a 35-year-old trauma patient to see exactly how this teamwork plays out in real time.
Just look at how this all flows together. First, the SLT and the PT are working in tandem on breathing and communication. Then, the OT and PT team up to get the patient sitting out of bed for the first time using a specialized chair. The SLT swallow assessment directly gives the dietitian the information to create a safe feeding plan, and the whole time, the OT is working on the patient's cognitive state and sense of self. It's like this seamless dance, and the patient is always at the center of it.
You know, this collaborative way of working, it really is the future of intensive care. It's a massive shift in thinking, from focusing only on the disease to focusing on the whole person and their entire long-term recovery journey.
So let's do a quick recap. Each one of these pros tackles a specific, major challenge of being critically ill. The physiotherapist fights weakness, the dietitian fights malnutrition, the speech and language therapist brings back the voice and safe swallowing, and the occupational therapist rebuilds independence and fights delirium. And when you put them all together, they're addressing the whole spectrum of what we call post-intensive care syndrome.
And that really leaves us with one final big thought. We've gotten so good at saving people from the very brink of death. But maybe, just maybe, the real challenge now, the next great frontier for medicine, isn't just about saving lives, but about truly restoring them.